Welcome to Elevated Voices, where we explore leadership as a way of being. I'm Dr. Amin Sanaia, and today I'm joined by TT and Professor Santana. How are you guys today?
Super blessed, Dr. Amin. Super blessed. How are you?
Happy to be here. There's no
Awesome.
better way I'd rather spend my Sunday with these two gentlemen here.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what
Well,
I'm talking about.
yes. Today, we're talking about something that influences every decision we make, every relationship we build, and every challenge we face. That is our guiding principles. A little background before we start. I disclaimer. This is a topic that Tanner actually introduced to me in a conversation we had a little bit over 4 years ago. And it just, oh man, it challenged me. He challenged me. And from there on, I've really thought long and hard about guiding principles and how it affects our lives. So
Yeah.
guiding principles, go ahead, Tanner. I'm sorry.
No. Thank you for those kind words. So I wrote something down earlier as I was thinking and preparing for this, and you and I have had such great conversations about guiding principles. But I
Oh,
just wanted to kind of lay this framework and this foundation for those that are listening and for us on here. Guiding principles should be your guiding light at the core of who and what you present as, but they should also challenge and convict you, making you strive for the best in yourself.
oh man. Woo.
Your guiding principles should be what guides you. It should be who you are. It should be how others reflect on this is the type of character that this individual has. But your
Mhm.
guiding principles should not be easy.
No.
Your guiding principles should challenge you every day. Am I living up to what guides me to who I am? And I've been having a lot of conversations recently with some different individuals through different walks of life. And one thing that's become really profound to me in my journey over the past year or so has been, we get so caught up in what is our purpose. I want to have a purpose, and I want this purpose to be what I do. I think it is more important to have a life of meaning than to have a life of purpose. I think when you have a life of meaning, that's when you truly find where your purpose lies. And that's when you can look back at the end of your days, whenever those are, and say, you know what? My life meant something to me, and it meant something to the people that I was around. And my guiding principles influenced what that meaning was. I'm coming in heavy.
That is awesome. I mean, I don't know where to go from there. That's like
Uh,
mic drop. Oh, okay. Thank you for having us. It's time to go.
exactly. Yeah. Come
That
back
is
next
so
week.
awesome, TT. Go ahead, Professor Santana.
Yeah, come back next week. I think this is it, right? Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm not prepared for this. You guys have been discussing this topic for quite some time, and I just came into the loop now. Uh, but when you sent me the message, I was thinking, I like, what is my guiding principle? What really drives me? Besides the obvious, right? Which is usually the Lord and your family, right? Those are
Yep.
the two things that they drive you, right? Those are the two things that keep you focused. But how does that come into your work environment? How do you bring that into your work environment? Uh, for me, always people has been my primary objective, right? Not the deliverables, not the projects, but the people that I'm working with. And making sure that they're well, making sure that they're healthy, making sure that they have some kind of life balance, not just work. Even though I know lately my team goes to listen to this, I apologize. I know for the last couple of weeks we've been working very hard. I really appreciate it, but this is something that you don't do often, right? After that, people can relax. But next 4 more weeks, that's all I'm asking. 4 more weeks, and then things will go back to normal. But for me, it's important to have a human connection with people. As you guys know, I recently traveled to meet my team for the first time that I met him in person. And oh my God, this is that human connection, right? Going around the room, shaking everybody's hand. Everybody knows your name because everybody's expecting you. Everybody knows who you are, and you going around meeting everybody is definitely it's an impression that won't go away, and it's priceless. The connection that you make, not from the Teams video or not from the Skype video, it's even though it's the same person, it's completely different, and it's really hard to explain until somebody really goes through it. Yeah, the connection is completely different. You could work with people, and I've been working with this team for now, for quite some time. But the connection that I have with them now is just, undescribable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so powerful. I'm glad you said that, and that you had that experience. Just unbelievable. I can right now. I'm replaying in my mind that conversation that TT and I had, a little bit over 4 years ago. It's just one of the best conversations I've ever had in my life, because it truly did. I mean, it challenged me to think about, um, really, why do I do the things I do? Why am I the way I am? And from there on, it's just it clicked, and then I just thought about it, and put thoughts to pen to paper, and wrote down and fine-tuned it, and then till I came up with, I really truly have three. And that's what we're going to get into in our first segment. Is, let's talk about, what are those for each of us.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
we're
mean, I know your first one. I know it right off the bat. Loving people, loving self. I
hey,
know,
that's
I
me,
know, I know
man.
it right off. I know it right off the bat. And Juan, it sounds like yours is very similar to that.
Yes,
Um, and the work on guiding principles should be a continuous work.
yes,
Uh, you know, Juan, as you say, what your principles are. Faith and family is what I heard very strongly there.
Yes.
The next step in that is, how does that present to you as an individual, and then how do you reflect that out?
yes,
So let's using faith, because I love family too, but using faith, you know, the example would be, right, I am a man of faith. So what does being a man of faith mean to me? It means that I have firm convictions on where I stand with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And knowing that I fall short of those convictions every day, and that he loves and forgives me regardless of my shortcomings, and that I can try and do better each day moving forward. So then what does that present to, as I am reflecting that out to others? Am I meeting people with empathy? Am I meeting people with grace? Am I meeting people in the same way that Jesus met them, where he held them accountable to what they were doing, and saying, look, your sins don't define you, but you can do better. You can operate from a place of true love. You can say that, like James and the Zebedee, that they wanted to be sitting next to him in his seat of honor, as in his throne of honor, and he said, "Are you willing to take the same cup of suffering as I am?" And reflecting that same thing back out, and reflecting. I mean, the most beautiful thing about the Christian faith is that there's no there's no door that's locked. It just takes surrender,
Mhm.
and then digging down even further till you can really refine, what does that mean in terms of a guiding principle. Amin knows that the very first guiding principle that I ever came up with is actually my third guiding principle. But the
mhm,
very first one that defined how I was going to operate for the rest of my life was that forgiveness is a superpower.
yep, absolutely,
It is one of the most challenging things to do, to forgive somebody that hurts you.
yes,
And going back to that conversation on faith, what did Jesus say as he was hanging on the cross? Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Mm.
So for me, where that guiding principle came from was I struggled with anger issues and abandonment issues for a long time. I still struggle with them, but I struggled with them for a long time because I never had a relationship with my biological father until I was 27 years old. And he passed away when I was 30 from bone cancer. But at 27, he reached out to me and I had an opportunity to have a conversation with him. And in that conversation, something came over me where I said, you know what, I'm ready to have a relationship with you and we can start from day one right now. All I ask is that I've got questions and just don't lie to me, right? And what blossomed from that was this understanding of just just as just as Paul says, I am the worst sinner that I know. No one knows my sins more intricately than me. So we all fall short. Everybody has their own reasons why they make mistakes and what happens in their life. For me to hold somebody else accountable is for me to say, you know what? You have sins and I have sins. And whatever sins happened between you and me or developed you into having a strained relationship with me or hurting me or whatever, I know that at times I've been a terrible person. So if I expect forgiveness for myself, I have to be able to forgive you. And once you can take that step and say, you know what, I'm going to work through the forgiveness process. Doesn't mean forgetting, doesn't mean you ever have to talk to the person ever again. But you work through that process of forgiving, something changes within you. And that's why I say it's a superpower. I mean, the ability to look back and say, if I wouldn't have forgiven my father, I wouldn't have gotten the relationship that I had with him for the 3 years that he was alive. I wouldn't have met half my family that I end up, that I speak to regularly now. My kids wouldn't have the experience of knowing those people. I wouldn't have the pride that I have in the name that I have.
Mhm.
You can't deny what just that one simple act of forgiveness for somebody that I held anger to for almost my entire life up until that point changed for me. So, but again, it goes back to that deep, deep work of, this is what foundationally I believe is a guiding principle for me. So now let's refine that down into how I can articulate that as a sentence or two sentences that I could write down on a wall and I could say, or put on my fridge or put on my mirror in my bathroom. And every day I look at it and it challenges me to how can I present as this person every day?
Well, sounds like I have a lot of homework to do.
We all do
We all
constantly.
do. It doesn't, it's not set in stone.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Tanner
It's
said,
very fluid.
yeah, it's very fluid, but it's, what are those convictions that are going to challenge you? And similar to Tanner's, I mean, my first one, loving people, loving self. It took a while for me to really think about and be vulnerable enough to say it. Because when you say that in any setting, and more so in a professional setting, people look at you funny.
Mhm.
Why? Because I mean, it's oh, loving. Well, are you're not supposed to use that at work. Why not? And it really came down to me. It was um a, a pivotal time in my life was when my brother passed away. I think my entire outlook at life, and the way I was treating myself was not good. And his that time that I spent with him, caring for him and just being with him, as the disease process happened with him, made me realize that I needed to learn how to love myself. I needed to find out who I was because I didn't know who
Yeah.
I was. I was a fake person. I was that the facade that I used to try to play for other people to see. But when that all of that made me realize, hold on a second, I can't really love anyone else if I don't even love myself because I don't even know what
Yeah.
that is.
That's something that my wife brings to me all the time. Especially when she looks, my health condition and all kinds of medicines. She always says that you need to learn to love yourself to get better. You know, she says that to me all the time, and I really didn't know what it really meant until you guys brought it up now.
So what does it mean to you?
Well, at
Based
first,
on as you're reflecting right now, like in this moment, what does it mean to you?
obviously, you got to start healing within yourself. I we can forgive others very easily, but what about yourself, your inner you?
Oh yeah.
Are you forgiving yourself? Are you healing inside? And I think that's something that I need to focus a little bit more. And I recently joined a group in church. So, and one of the things that we said is to start doing little things, and here driving in New Jersey, where I'm at now, is always you get a lot of drivers that cut you off in the morning. And what's your first reaction? You give them the finger, you start cursing them out. So they say, next time somebody cuts you off, just tell them have a blessed day and just keep driving. You know, don't let them take you down the route which they're going. Keep focused, keep your faith. And next time somebody cuts you off, have a blessed day and continue driving smoothly without getting so upset and so out of shape because then that triggers you and then you get to work and you have that mentality now because the guy cut you off and your whole mindset is off. Your whole balance for the day is off.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, without a doubt, that's a big part of my coaching when I'm coaching individuals is the mindset, the way you start your day, and how you let those triggers affect you, in a good way or not. I mean, it's just something as simple. You don't even have to go as far as, somebody cut you off, but you wake up, you trip over something, and then now you're cursing out loud, screaming, yelling, whatever that is, and then we say it, oh, it's going to be one of those days. Well,
Yes.
you just spoke it into existence. It is going to be one of those days. So, the way we speak to ourselves is so important. Um, so that I love what Tanner says. Come up with it and put it somewhere, put it in front of the refrigerator, whatever it is, that place that you're going to see it every day, just as a reminder for you that, hey, that's me right there. That's what I'm about. I'm going to challenge myself to do that today.
And that's something I tell
Absolutely.
the kids that I coach that going off to college. I tell them, I want you to grab a little piece of paper and write down why you're going off to college. And then put it somewhere when you're on campus, wherever you're dorming, whatever, somewhere where you can see it. Because guarantee that at some point in your first semester, you're going to forget why you're going off to college. And you need something to remind you because you will forget. There'll be that party or something going on, and your whole mindset is just going to derail. And you need something to bring you back. So if you write it down and you put it somewhere you can see it every day, that's going to keep you focused on your goal.
Yeah. Yeah, and revisiting those, I mean, that's why gratitude journaling has such a high response for positive mentality and positive psychology, and gratitude journaling is great for the brain dump and starting your day off right or ending your day off correctly, but it's also important to go back and go and read
Hmm.
those journals. Go back and read what you wrote a couple of years ago or 5 years ago or 3 months ago. I also read something earlier this week that really stuck with me, and I really like this idea. It is go onto your calendar and pick a random day 6 months from now, and write on your calendar that you are going to go to dinner to celebrate all the accomplishments you've made in the past 6 months.
Wow.
And what happens is that it sets a psychological time clock inside your brain
Yes, it does.
that in 6 months you're going to celebrate something, right? And you may even totally forget about it, but deep down underneath the surface, your brain, your psyche knows, hey, you know what? We're going to celebrate in 6 months. We're going to celebrate in 4 months. We're going to celebrate in 2 weeks, right? And then when that day comes, when you see it on your calendar, be intentional. Go out, and it doesn't have to be a big fancy dinner. Go out and get a slice of pizza and a Coke and sit down and go, what has happened in the past 6 months that I can be grateful for? Because we are hardwired to focus on the negative,
Yes.
right? Everything in our world tells us to focus on what's going to go wrong, not what is going right. So I've talked, I mean, you've heard me talk about this a number of times, and I've talked about it on multiple platforms, but most people don't know it. But there is a site called the Good News Network, and all they do is focus on good news, right? That's not, you can't find it on your TV. You can't put it on, it's not going to be on CNN because we operate on negativity,
Mhm.
right? Negativity motivates us. Negative outcomes motivate us. Mistakes are how we improve, and all of these different things. Juan, we were talking about it before we actually started the podcast, in how the project that you're working on, that it has to roll out by this set date, and that there's going to be mistakes that happen. It's not going to roll out perfectly. You're already thinking about what's going to go wrong, as opposed to all of the things that your incredible team did right
Mhm.
that is going to make it be a success, right? And that's human nature. That's how we're built. We're built to focus on I stubbed my toe, and so that's how it's going to affect the whole day,
Yeah.
right? But we can flip that script by little things like notes on our fridge, or a daily affirmation, or morning meditations, or taking in the smell of coffee when it goes off in the morning, and knowing, what, at least I'm blessed enough to have a cup of coffee,
There you go.
right? But that's that mind shift. That's that positive psychology, and something else that I wanted to touch on, Juan, that you said was kind of that deep work. Carl Jung famously did the shadow work, right? And so like his whole thing was that everybody has a shadow self, right? And until you make a relationship with that shadow self, those things that you keep locked away from everyone else, the things that are really underneath the mask of what we present as to everyone around us, until you make that relationship with yourself, you'll never really have a full and fruitful life. But the other side of that is when you get down into that shadow self and you start really looking at kind of these nasty, negative, things that have been built to make you who you are, you also have to bring in those positives. You also have to do what I like to call is light work. And it's things like gratitude journaling. It's things like recognizing that, maybe you did these things when you were growing up out of necessity because of the environment that you were in. And so you carry trauma because of those things.
Mhm.
But those things also taught you to be resilient. And so giving some positivity and light to that piece of it as well, and saying, you know what, like, yes, there was trauma, but I also can change how I present to other people and not give this same trauma to those that I'm around. Just an example.
I just there's something very interesting. Like I mentioned, I joined a group of band in church, right? And we did a retreat, and one of the last things that we had to do is write a letter to ourselves.
Ooh.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and they collected the letter because they're gonna mail it to ourselves within a year. So in a year, we're gonna get that letter in the mail that you wrote to yourself. And to be honest, I can't remember right now what I wrote on the letter, and I'm really looking forward to getting that in the mail. What
Yeah.
did I wrote to myself?
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just
It's
gave
incredibly powerful.
that just gave me an idea for our next episode. But I'm not gonna share with you guys because y'all gonna have to tune in for the next episode. It's gonna be really fun. It's an exercise that I love doing. And we're gonna do it in the next episode. But that's awesome. Wow, that's really, really awesome. I like that. TT, so talk to us about another one of your guiding principles.
Yeah, so all of my guiding principles stem from somewhere where I believe I have a weakness. So forgiveness was a weakness for me for a long time. I
Mhm.
carried a lot of anger and woe is me, and
Mhm.
that type of stuff. So another one of my weaknesses, and we just kind of touched on it a little bit, is I believe that we as humans are predispositioned to judge, right? Like we all have preconceptions of things that we judge or think of differently than how other people do it, right? So My number one guiding principle is that, and this is going to go off of something that you were just talking about, Juan. You can't control the first thought that comes into your head,
I love that
but
one.
you can control the second.
I was hoping you were gonna go there because I love
You,
that one.
Yeah.
I love that one.
yeah, you
Love that
you
one.
can't control the first thought that comes into your head, but you can control the second. So where this comes from for me is that we all judge, right? I judge all the time. We all have that little voice inside of us that starts to speak to that judgment, whatever it is. So you were using the example of somebody cuts you off, and your first reaction is to flip them off, or your first reaction is to cuss them out in your head. You can't control that, right? That's a product of who you are, how you were raised,
Yep.
where you were raised, the different influences that you had from your family to your social structure to social media to whatever it is that you built your personality up in, right?
Mhm.
You can't control that first thought, but you can redirect and control the second thought. You can immediately, when you curse that person out in your brain, go, you know what? That's not who I want to be. Have a blessed day. I will tell you, again, guiding principles should convict and challenge you.
Yes.
I fail at this more than any other guiding principle that I have. I sometimes don't catch it until it's the 353rd thought, right? I don't catch it until 3 days later when I'm still ruminating on it and I'm having the conversation in the shower of what I should have said to that person, you know? And then I go, this is not who I am.
Yep.
This is not who I want to. When I reflect back on my life of meaning, this is not who I want to present as. I want to present as the person that recognized we all deserve grace, So you can't control the first thought that comes into your head, but you can control the second.
Yep. Yep. Juan, how does that resonate with you? And
No,
and do
yeah.
you want to share another thought that can become that we can work on? See, maybe we be create another guiding principle there for you.
It's I've been there. I know what Tana is talking about. When you just say something, and then you're like, I could have handled that a little different. Uh, yeah, we're all unfortunately, guilty of doing it. Uh, and how do we stop? I don't know. Sometimes our emotion takes the better half of us. All right, and sometimes when it comes to work, we're so engaged and so involved in it that we let our emotion uh, take our decision, and sometimes it's not the best. Uh, I worked with a guy, that he let he was, he kept apologizing. He goes, no, 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 no. I know you're very passionate about your work. There's no need to apologize. That's the way you are. That's the way you come across. But you're just very passionate. You're not as you're rude. It's just you're passionate about your work. Uh, but it's yeah. And it's hard. It's hard. It's very hard. And if I think about it, things that I've done, I could have handled better. Yeah, it's very difficult. It's very challenging. And I think I would challenge myself to really think before answering back anybody. Really take a pause, really think about it, and then respond to the person. But I'm quite sure that this is not an easy task. Right? It's not
It,
going to be
it
an
is
easy task.
absolutely not an easy
It,
task,
it, it
and
is it is now, man.
and
I'm telling you,
It's
that
it's
conversation I will never forget
it's
in my
it's
life.
easy to say it here with you guys, but when you're in the work environment or you're working late at night, you're working, as it's late in the evening, and somebody comes and says something that you're just gonna shoot out like, maybe I shouldn't have said that, And sometimes we need to be careful because we don't know, right? What the other person is going through. You don't know what the person, personally is having. Uh, and it could be, words could be very hurtful,
Yeah.
right?
You said something very important there.
Yeah.
That yeah, while we're having the conversation now, it's fresh in our minds and it's probably easier to think about and stuff like that. But in the day to day becomes a lot harder. But that this is where if you write it down, if you go back to it and you constantly apply it, and even if it takes you, like Tanner said, 3 days later or after the 353rd thought, at least you're catching it. So next time, maybe catch it in the 300th thought instead of the 353rd. And that's how we get better is the practice of it, how we're applying it, how we're being intentful in what we're doing. That's where the magic happens. That's where you're creating that neuroplasticity of, hey, this is who I am. These are my principles. And this is how I'm going to show up to the world.
Yeah, it's hard because I know I'm not built that way. And I remember one of our first conversation, I said that one of my managers said I was the best fireman he had. Because I see a problem and I just go in full speed ahead and solve the problem. So my first mindset is to always jump in and take care of everything. So I'm not waiting to think about it or analyze it. I'm always going to go with my guts. Uh, and now, I need to retrain my brain.
Mhm.
I not to always go with my guts, but to really think about it first. And it's going to be challenging. I'm all for the challenge.
Well, I'm going to challenge that though. I think intuition is very strong. I think it's a very powerful tool. And I think going with your gut, you have a reason. Again, you have built who you are over this life that you've had so far. So your intuition, your gut instinct are based on what you've seen
Mhm.
be successful. When I'm talking about judgments, I'm not just necessarily talking about the emotional reaction to a conversation, right? Like I know people, I'm good at practicing the pause, right? I want to process before I react. And I learned this in the corporate world years ago in emails, right? You can't take tone from an email,
Yes.
right? And oftentimes when I would get an email that I could tell somebody was saying something negatively or something that I disagree with, I would write my response email and let it sit for a while so that I could go back and really process. And I do the same thing now in almost every tense interaction that I have. I want to be reactionary, but I step back so that I can really process what they may be going through, what's really going on in the situation, and that's where my gut instinct flourishes. But you were just traveling to a different country where you saw things that were completely different than how we do them in our country. And it for me, that judgment goes deep like that. When I see somebody that is, licking their fingers before picking up their piece of food that they're about to hand to you because they're a street vendor and they've never been proper hand sanitization or wearing gloves or anything like that, my immediate reaction in my brain is to judge them and go, "Oh my gosh, that's so filthy, that's so dirty. What kind of disease am I going to catch?" Right? That's a rational judgment. That's a rational way to think about something, right? But for me, it's important to, I can't control that first thought that comes into my head, but I can control the second one by saying, well, you know what? They never were trained on hand sanitization. They've probably never been shown where a hand washing sink is. They probably have built up an immunity over their entire lifetime to whatever communicable diseases that I might be susceptible to because I don't have that same immune system. So I will share something that is very personal to me. And it's a judgment that I have, and it's a real judgment, and I'm putting myself really out here, right? Um, I used to be significantly overweight. I'm 190 pounds right now. I was almost 300 pounds. For me, when I see somebody that's overweight, my initial judgment is, how can you let yourself get like that? And I love seeing the success stories on things like social media and on TV and where people have they've gotten to 600 pounds, they've gotten to 800 pounds, and they go in and they do the work and they fix their life, right? But when I see that person firsthand and I see somebody heavy like that, initially that's one of my judgments. That's one of the things that I work on in myself all the time of I don't know what their circumstances are. I don't know what they've been raised to do. Like nobody gets, I didn't get to 300 pounds overnight. It was a lifetime of bad habits that built up to me being that way, right? And so part of where this guiding principle came to me is that I was judging somebody and not thinking about their journey. And I was judging somebody from a place of pride in my own journey of, well, I was able to do it. Anyone can do it, and that's not fair to them. And that's not fair to who I want to be, right? I want to be somebody that recognizes that everybody has struggles, and who am I to judge them just because I was able to lose, 100 and 110 pounds doesn't mean that somebody else has the same ability to do that. So I think when we're talking about like when I'm talking about the judgment, I'm talking about something that we are so hardwired to judge in every interaction that we have in our lives. We're so hardwired for it. And how do we change that? Like, how do I change that in myself? And that's why it is my first guiding principle because it's the thing that I struggle with the most because it's the like I'm always having a constant dialogue with myself inside of my head. And if I don't control the narrative, of that dialogue, I know how dark that dialogue can get because I know where it's taken me before in my life. And that's why it's my number one guiding principle.
Well, welcome to the TT show.
No,
I'm
No,
passionate about guiding
yeah,
principles.
it's
I,
yeah.
I
this
really,
it
really
sounds like
am.
we need to have a separate conversation and sit down and with a glass of wine and have a really deep conversation on this, right? Because we could be here for hours,
Yeah.
and still only touch the surface of this.
No,
I,
you could do decades of work on this and constantly refine it. That's what's so important about guiding principles. That's
yeah.
that's what's so important about it, you know?
So for me, I can say one of my other guiding principles is impacting people's lives in a positive manner. Um, and that is I've always carried that. Um, and thinking about it, the reason why it became as one of my guiding principles, um, it started from a young age. And my upbringing and being uprooted from my country, Dominican Republic, and having to move to New York City, that whole process was very impactful for us, for me, my family, and that everything we went through because of that. Um, I promised myself at a young age. I was 11 years old, or maybe 10 at that time, that I I I wouldn't let my family go through similar situations that we were going through at that time. But also, how do I make a better world for others? Um, and that from there on, I just made it a life mission. Is how can I be better for others? How can I impact their lives and make their lives better? And that's always something that I've carried forward, and it's a struggle sometimes. It is, but that is something that for me it's something that I carry with me, and it's one of my guiding principles.
Yeah, and Juan, based on conversations that we've had before, I believe that that's a good foundational one for you to dig down on too.
Yeah.
Is you do a lot of work with people who are going off to college. You do a
Mhm.
lot of mentorship with young adults,
Yeah.
young individuals. Um, you know, it, I know you to be a man of profound impact in your team, in your community, you know, so how does that type of impact guide who you are, and how do you refine it to continue to guide people in such an impactful way?
Yeah, to me, yeah, it's very, like Amin said, it's very important for me, uh, making a difference. Not only do I mentor, but I also a college professor. So to make a difference in someone's that's coming up. I mean, even this semester, I have one student. Unfortunately, she's taking my class for the third time. Not because I fail, but she was very open. She was, Professor, I know this is the third time. It's not you. I know that I have not been doing the work that I'm supposed to be. It's not. I love the way you teach, but it's not you. So to hear that, I know it's not me, but to hear come from the student, because students very easy to say, oh, this professor, I don't understand what he's saying. Because I used to be a student, right? And we always try to put the blame on somebody else and not look, what we're doing wrong. And so for her to, admit it in the class in front of everybody, says, this is my third time and it's not because of you. I love the way you teach. It's just I haven't been doing the work, but this is, you know, I'm going to be different this semester. And she's doing pretty well this semester. So be able to have an impact on somebody, even though it took three times, I'm making an impact. I mean, one of my early experience as a professor is to have the students come to me and says, this is the first time that I felt challenged, and I appreciate that you have challenged me, and I really appreciate what you're doing. That also was a huge impact, and I'm always trying to figure out how can I improve, how can I be better at what I'm doing. And one of the things, since I'm teach technology classes, I bring a lot of my experience into the classroom and show them real life. Guys, this is, I know the book says this, but in real life this is what's going on, and the benefit that you got of using or learning tools like this. And now with everything changing, you got Copilot, you got ChatGPT, you got all this tool available to this young mind, which it could be a bad thing, it could be a good thing, right? If you use it wisely, it could be great.
Yep. If they use it
But
wisely.
if you use it the wrong way, then this next generation, unfortunately, is not going to get smarter because they're leaving everything onto the tool to make other decisions.
Yeah,
So it's a double-edged knife.
yeah, they're losing their critical thinking pathway
Mm.
because they're allowing the AI tools to do all the work for them, but you need to do the work. Let it fine tune your answer, let it fine tune maybe the process, but you still have to do the work. And that's one of the conversations I'm having, I'm teaching right now as well. That's one of the conversations I'm having with the students I'm teaching. I'm teaching master's and doctorate level, and I challenged them. I was like, it's great. You're giving me, I give you these essays, these thought-provoking questions and cases for you to for you guys to help you learn, investigate, and research. I told them, I hope you guys are doing the work, that you're not just letting the AI do the work for you, because if not, you're wasting your money, number one, because you are paying for this. Number two, you're wasting your time, and you really are not going to get anything out of this.
I don't know.
So it really makes no sense if you don't actually put in the work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And, I don't know how we can control that. In my case, it's like technology class that I'm teaching. So, I encourage them. I actually encourage them. Use the tools that are available, because sometimes in your work environment, when you can't figure something out, we Google search a lot. If I couldn't figure something out, then I Google search. But now you have all this tool that is more powerful now. And I think it's important that they learn how to use it, but learn how to use it properly. All right, and that's the trick there. Don't depend on the tool only, but use it as an attachment.
Mhm.
I not as a a solution for everything.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a lot of ebb and flow with
Yep.
that. We've seen it already, but people are going to have to find a way to use it as a benefit, and as you say, a tool
Mhm.
versus the solution. But it's going to take making some significant mistakes in the long run to get it right. But I think it's brilliant technology.
Absolutely.
Guys,
Great technology.
the stuff that's capable of making is ridiculous. I
It's
mean,
wild.
Yep. You still got to put in the work though.
Yeah,
All
you do.
right. All right. Well, let's start wrapping it up. So, final thoughts.
Juan,
well, it
I'll let you
sounds
go first.
uh, sounds to me like I have a lot of work to do. Uh, I need to start definitely writing down some of my principles, uh, and then call Tanner on the side and have a conversation with him, uh, to really, really dive into this. But I really enjoy this conversation because it's definitely has opened my eyes a little bit here. Things that I need to do, uh, things that I have to change within, and I'm looking forward to that letter to come in the mail. I think I got 611 before I see the letter and see what I wrote to myself. Uh, because I sort of I can't remember what I wrote to myself. So hopefully something good. I don't know. But got a lot of work. You guys have put a lot of work into this. You've been discussing it for quite some time now. So it's time for me not to put in the same amount of work. And then we could have a separate conversation.
We
Yeah, for
can
sure.
we can always me and Tanner did an episode on this a couple of years ago. It's very powerful. It's actually on my YouTube channel. It's if anyone is interested in listening to it, but it was great. But we've been speaking about this. We're very intentional about um really having deep conversations about this because it is a powerful, powerful conversation topic. Um, but it does give you homework, and if you want it to be meaningful, you have to put in the work. TT, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, Amin and I had a conversation years ago in Juno Beach, Florida. And in that conversation, we talked about arrows out versus arrows in.
Oof.
And so often we are arrows out with almost every interaction in our life. It's what did someone else do to us and you know, those types of scenarios. For guiding principles, it needs to be arrows in.
Mhm.
And I read something a couple years ago that just it continues to have a profound impact on conversations that I have with others and conversations that I have with myself. And this should be the good starting ground for what change do you want to see in yourself so that you can be proud of the person that you are, that you can lay your head on your pillow and be happy with who you are. And that is, if there is one thing that I could change about myself, what would it be? And
Ooh.
I'm not talking about I wish I had more money or I wish I didn't weigh as much, right? I'm talking about the deeper core part of that. If we're talking about weight, you don't really wish that you weighed less. You wish that your image of yourself was different. You wish that the effects on your health were different.
Yes.
So, what does that come down to, right? Why do you have a negative self-image of yourself? Or why is your health important to you, right? Are you scared of death? Why are you scared of death?
Yeah.
This is the type of question that you can really, really drill down on and drill down on and drill down on in conjunction with what you believe is a principle of yours so that you can find what your guiding principle is. I think that people should have up to three guiding principles. If you have five, that's okay, but five, I guarantee two of them could probably be incorporated into your three, right?
Yep.
Two to three really is kind of the sweet spot for guiding principles.
Yes.
And again, they should challenge you, they should convict you, they should be difficult, They should be something that you want to present as in every interaction that you have in your life. And they should really resonate with who you are as your most authentic self. I love this conversation. I could have this conversation for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours because at the end of the day, our world is made better by us knowing ourselves.
Yes.
Mm.
That's it, right? Knowing ourselves and truly loving ourselves and truly presenting to those that are around us as ourselves.
Yep.
That's who we truly are. And knowing that we can be a person of good character and good principle, it impacts everything around us. And that's how we change the world. Mahatma Gandhi famously said, well, it was taken out of context. Um, what's the quote? I know it as he really said it. Really, what he said, be the change. But really, what Gandhi was talking about was, if you want to change the world, you must first change yourself. True change comes from within.
Yep. That's where it starts. And I mean, just uh, tagging along to the arrows in, arrows out. If you really want to make any meaningful change anywhere, whether it's personal, professional, um, it really starts with, how are you showing up? What is your piece? What is the part that you can affect in order to kickstart that change for others? It's not usually something from the outside, it's usually something from the inside. Um,
100%.
yep, absolutely. So, I mean, just to wrap this up, one of the things that I really thought about for this episode, I want to leave our audience with this reflection. At the end of our lives, people may forget many of the decisions we made, many of the conversations we've had. They may forget our achievements or even some of our successes, but they will remember how we lived,
Mhm.
how we made them feel. They will remember what we stood for, and they will remember the principles that shaped our actions. So, as we leave this conversation today, consider this: what are the principles that guide you? And we'll see you on the next episode.
And let's
Absolutely.
let's 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 take it one more step, right? Let's ask our audience to please put those principles in the chat, in the comments.
Please
Let's get
engage
some
with us.
feedback from the
Please
audience.
Let us know. We'll be watching and waiting. Take care, everyone.
go forth
Take care.
and do great things.
Amen.